The parade ground of the Galactic Coalition Military Academy stretched beneath 3 suns, its obsidian surface radiating heat that would have killed most species. Sergeant Alina Var stood at attention, her human frame seeming impossibly fragile among the towering Krixathi warriors and armored Velcrian shock troops. Sweat traced lines down her temples, but her chin remained high, her gray eyes fixed on the horizon. "Pathetic," Commander Jask hissed, his serpentine neck coiling with contempt. "The humans send us this? A weak-boned prey creature who cannot even withstand our training, son?" Laughter rippled through the assembled cadets. Alina's jaw tightened, but she didn't move. She had endured worse than mockery during her 3 months at the academy. The Coalition had accepted humanity's application for membership. But acceptance on paper meant little when most species still saw Earth's children as soft, defenseless animals who had somehow stumbled into spacefaring technology. "Today's drill is simple," Jask announced, his voice carrying across the field through translator implants. "A 10-kilometer march in full combat gear. Standard procedure for all Coalition soldiers." His eyes, all 3 of them, fixed on Alina with predatory amusement. "Let us see if the human can keep pace." The weight settled onto Alina's shoulders. 60 kilograms of combat armor designed for species with denser bone structure and enhanced musculature. It hadn't been adjusted for human physiology. She checked. This was deliberate. As the cadets formed ranks, she was pushed to the front, isolated and exposed. The message was clear. They wanted her to fail publicly, to prove that humans didn't belong among the warriors of the galaxy. The march began. Alina's legs screamed after the first kilometer. The armor's weight distributed poorly across her frame, and the heat was suffocating inside the sealed suit. Around her, Krixathi cadets moved with fluid ease, their scales reflecting the triple sunlight. Velcrians stomped forward on 4 legs, barely noticing the load. Even the smaller species maintained formation without visible strain. But Alina kept moving. 1 foot in front of the other, she thought of Earth, of the Sol system that had clawed its way from planetary isolation to interstellar recognition in barely 2 centuries. She thought of every human who had been told they were too weak, too soft, too emotional to survive among the stars. By kilometer 3, her vision blurred. By kilometer 4, she tasted copper in her mouth. "The human falls soon," someone laughed. "No bets," another replied. "Too obvious." Alina stumbled but caught herself. Her right knee threatened to buckle, but she locked it and pushed forward. The cadets around her had begun deliberately spacing themselves away, creating a circle of emptiness that highlighted her isolation. Then she heard smaller footsteps. The cubs had been watching from the training ground's edge, juvenile members of various species, too young for formal military service but present to observe and learn. Among them were young Krixathi, their scales still soft and bright with youth, their bodies not yet hardened by ceremonial scarring. Cub Ren emerged from their group first. He was barely chest-high to the adult cadets, his crimson scales unmarked, his movements uncertain, but he carried a training pack, smaller than combat gear but significant for his size, and he fell into step beside Alina. "Ren," an adult Krixathi instructor barked. "Return to observation." The cub didn't respond. His young legs worked to match Alina's pace, his breath coming quick but determined. Then another cub joined. A young Velcrian, stumbling on still awkward legs but carrying a weighted sack across her back. Then a Thurian cub, then 2 more Krixathi, then a small Centauri whose species rarely produced warriors at all. Within minutes, a dozen cubs surrounded Alina, marching in formation with her. The adult cadets fell silent. Commander Jask's face contorted with something between fury and confusion. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. Cub Ren's voice came clear through the translator, high and young but unwavering. "The sergeant does not quit. She does not ask for mercy. She does not blame her equipment or her biology." He looked up at the towering instructor. "She just marches. Like you teach us. Like warriors do." Another cub added, "If she is too weak, why does she not stop? We are young and we tire, but we do not stop because she does not stop." The weight of their words settled over the parade ground heavier than any combat armor. These cubs, who had observed countless drills and absorbed countless lessons about warrior spirit and military honor, had seen something the adults had deliberately ignored. Alina felt tears threaten but blinked them back. She couldn't speak, didn't trust her voice, but she adjusted her stride slightly, making it easier for the smaller legs around her to keep pace. Kilometer 5 passed. Kilometer 6, the cubs maintained formation, their young bodies struggling but refusing to yield. The adult cadets could no longer laugh. How could they mock the human when their own youth had chosen to honor her instead? By kilometer 8, more cubs had joined. By kilometer 9, nearly 30 young warriors of a dozen species marched in precise formation around the single human sergeant. Commander Jask watched in silence, his 3 eyes unreadable. When the 10-kilometer mark finally arrived, Alina dropped to one knee, her body surrendering the moment it was permitted. The cubs surrounded her, several collapsing themselves, all of them breathing hard but none of them complaining. Cub Wren stood beside her, swaying slightly. "Sergeant Var," he said formally, "you march well. Will you teach us more?" Alina looked at the young Krixathi, at his bright, unmarked scales and his earnest eyes, and she saw the future of the coalition in that moment. Not the prejudiced adults who clung to old hierarchies, but these cubs who judged by action rather than biology. It would be my honor. "Cub Wren," she managed, her voice rough but steady. That evening, Commander Jask called Alina to his office. She expected punishment, censure for disrupting the drill with what could be called a publicity stunt. Instead, he regarded her for a long moment. "The cubs have made their judgment," he said finally. "And in Krixathi culture, the judgment of cubs is considered pure, untainted by politics or pride." He leaned forward. "You have proven nothing about human strength, Sergeant Var, but you have proven something about human will. Perhaps that is more valuable." The next day, Alina's combat armor was properly fitted. The mockery didn't entirely disappear, but it muted, shifted, and everywhere she went on the academy grounds, cubs would stop and salute, a gesture of respect that even their elders could not ignore. Humanity had found its foothold among the stars not through superior strength, but through something more fundamental, the refusal to yield, and the wisdom to recognize when others shared that same unbreakable spirit. The cubs had marched with her. And in doing so, they had marched humanity one step closer to true belonging among the warriors of the galaxy.